You've seen this tattoo, but its real meaning is much darker and more complex than you think. It's part of a secret language, spoken not with words, but with symbols. Graffiti on a wall isn't art.
Welcome, learners, to another deep dive. Today, we're plunging into a world where words aren't just words. They're codes, symbols tell stories, and language, well, it's a shield, a weapon, a badge of identity, all rolled into one. We're talking about the fascinating, sometimes confusing, always evolving world of gang terminology. We've got some really insightful sources lined up for this extensive glossaries from gang enforcement, a focused guide on blood slang. Basically, our mission today is to unpack how these specialized languages actually work. What do they tell us about the groups using them? And why is understanding all this so important?
Yeah, and what's really interesting here, I think, is that we're not just looking at a static list of definitions. Not at all. We're exploring a whole dynamic system. As our sources point out, this terminology, it's constantly changing. It varies hugely from group to group, even, area to area. It's very much an active, living language.
Exactly. So what's the takeaway for you? Well, whether you're prepping for a meeting, maybe getting up to speed on a complex field, or honestly, if you're just really curious, you'll get a much deeper sense of how these distinct communities communicate, how they express their culture, navigate their own realities. Let's get into it. Let's unpack this intricate world of words. Okay, let's start with maybe a foundational idea from that gang enforcement source. This isn't like cracking open a dictionary you buy at the store. Gang terminology is described as dynamic and evolving, constantly changing, and varying from area to area. It really is like a linguistic chameleon, adapting constantly.
And that dynamism, connecting it to the bigger picture, is absolutely crucial. It reflects how fluid these groups are, right? And their need for, well, both internal cohesion, sticking together, and external secrecy, keeping outsiders out. So new words pop up, old ones shift, meaning regional variations add layers of complexity. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How does that constant change affect how outsiders, maybe law enforcement, try to understand and track these groups?
Yeah, it must be incredibly challenging, like trying to hit a moving target, I imagine. It really underscores that what you think you know today might be totally different tomorrow.
Precisely. It's less about memorizing a list and more about understanding the process of change itself.
So not just collecting definitions, but developing a kind of real-time linguistic intelligence, almost like an ethnographic approach.
Exactly. It forces a different way of thinking. You're not just decoding words, but decoding the system that creates and changes them. It means understanding is an ongoing adaptive challenge. What's true today might not be tomorrow.
Okay, building on that adaptability, let's look at how deeply language shapes identity here. So many terms aren't just, functional labels. They're declarations. Declarations of who you are, who you're with, and where you stand in the pecking order, right? Like names and acronyms, they work like instant badges, signifying affiliation immediately. Our sources give examples like AFFA, that could mean Angels Forever, Forever Angels, or Aryans Forever, Forever Aryan. You've got AB for Aryan Brotherhood, EME for Mexican Mafia, NF for Nuestra Familia. And the blood source adds ones like GKB, Gangsta Killa Blood, BHB, Bounty Hunter Blood, SMM, Sex Money Murder. And these are often linked directly to tattoos, right? Like a permanent marker.
And what's fascinating there is how these short acronyms, these names, become a kind of shorthand for really complex identities and histories. It's a quick way to recognize fellow members, signal your allegiance. It reinforces group identity very, very concisely. Packs a lot into just a few letters.
And it's not just words, is it? The visual language is incredibly powerful too. Things like flying the colors or just calling a bandana rag. That immediately tells you who someone's affiliated with. Our sources detail some really potent symbols: the 5-point star for the People Nation, the 6-point star, and pitchforks for the Folk Nation. We also learn how the color red identifies Bloods, but also Nostra Familia and even some skinhead groups. And then you get into tattoos, which carry such heavy meanings. The shamrock for the Aryan Brotherhood, maybe with 666 in each leaf, or spider webs on elbows or shoulders signifying prison time, sometimes even homicide. And the teardrop near the eye, that can mean time served, or maybe the death of a fellow gang member.
It really raises a key question, doesn't it? How do these visuals, these symbols, work together with the spoken language to create this really comprehensive communication system? Because they're not just decorations, not at all. They are loaded with meaning, often conveying complex histories, loyalties, even specific acts, all in a single glance. It's a powerful nonverbal shorthand.
Right. And beyond defining who you are to the outside world, the language also meticulously maps out the internal structure. It outlines ranks, roles, even the most often brutal ways people get initiated. We see terms like baby gangster or pee-wee for the really young members, maybe 9 to 12 years old, then tiny gangster for 12 to 14. A new G could be a fresh initiate, or maybe the child of an existing member. The foot soldier is described as the lowest rank, while an OG, original gangster, that's an older respected figure, maybe 20, 25 plus years old, or it can even be the highest rank in the Bloods. And there are more specific roles too. A baller is someone making money for the gang. A veterano is an older, perhaps retired Hispanic gang member. For motorcycle gangs, a warlord is basically their sergeant of arms, the enforcer. And how do you get in? Terms like beat in, jump in, quoted. These refer to physical initiations, getting beaten by members. Our sources also mention sexting for female members involving, well, sexual acts with male members to gain entry.
Yeah, and what's really telling about these terms is how they don't just label roles. They illustrate the social hierarchy, the stratification within the group, and the rites of passage. This language formalizes the power dynamics, makes the expectations clear. It reinforces the often extreme commitment needed to join and move up. It kind of binds members together through this shared understanding of their place and, well, their purpose.
Okay, so we've talked identity, structure. Now let's shift to how language works as a practical tool. For day-to-day operations, including, criminal stuff, our sources give us a peek into this operational slang. For instance, catch a play apparently means arranging a drug deal. Specific drugs get their own codes. Dog food for heroin, Christina Aguilera for powder cocaine, sometimes called the soft white girl. Gas or loud for marijuana. Even objects get coded. A glizzy, a machete, or a tool, they all mean a gun. Being strapped means you're carrying a gun. A 9 mic is specifically a 9mm handgun. And in prison, a kite isn't something you fly, it's a letter or a note being passed.
Right. And if you think about the bigger function here, this jargon, this specialized language, it allows for covert communication. It's essential for internal security. It builds this linguistic wall, making it incredibly hard for outsiders to know what's really going on while helping members operate efficiently, even if it's illicit stuff. It's like a deliberately built maze of words.
Yeah, and a really significant chunk of this language, often quite chillingly, is all about rivalry, about disrespect. These aren't just casual insults, they're like verbal weapons, declarations of war almost. Our sources give some pretty stark examples. Adidas, supposedly meaning all day I destroy a slob, BK for blood killers, CK for crip killer. A code red means enemy alert, basically blood up, it's time to go to war. The Bloods have a phrase, 5 poppin', 6 droppin'. It's a direct claim, Bloods are shooting, Crips are dying. And then you have direct commands like KSWYSS, kill slobs when you see some, or SOS, smash on sight or shoot on sight. The derogatory terms are particularly vicious, designed to demean, to dehumanize rivals. Blob is a slur for a blood member. Crips use crab or slob to insult Bloods. And the Bloods, they have a whole arsenal back. Rips, B-Rabs, sissies for the Rollin' 60s crew, often twisting names or sounds. There's even one interpretation of Taco Bell as, take all Crips out, Bloods eventually live longer. Pretty intense.
It really makes you ask, what's the deeper social, even psychological function of language that's so consistently derogatory? Well, it powerfully reinforces their own group identity by clearly painting the enemy. It solidifies loyalty through shared hatred, and dangerously, it can contribute to dehumanizing rivals, which makes violence feel more, well, permissible or even necessary. It's constant verbal aggression.
And here's something linguistically fascinating, showing just how deep these rivalries embed themselves in the language. Our Blood source highlights this unique adaptation. Apparently, Bloods often replace the letter C with B or sometimes X in how they speak and write. So a Crip might be called a B-Rab. Cool becomes Bool. Corner turns into Borner. Cousin becomes Bouzin. It's a deliberate, active change.
Yeah, that's incredibly insightful, isn't it? That specific linguistic shift acts as this constant, powerful reminder of who they are and who they're against. It's way more than just slang. It's actively altering the very sounds of the language to deny and disrespect their main rival, the Crips, right down to the phonetic level. It's a really deliberate, consistent act of linguistic rebellion, affirming their identity by negating the other constantly.
Wow. Okay, so beyond words and letters, numbers also carry hidden meanings. It's like another whole layer of code. Our sources list quite a few numerical codes, each packed with significance. 12 is apparently common for law enforcement. 13 often points to Southern California Hispanic gangs, maybe affiliation with the Mexican mafia, or even marijuana use among outlaw bikers. 14 is used for Nuestra Familia. 187, that's pretty widely known now as the homicide code from police radio codes, right? And Bloods even adapted to B187. For Bloods, 311 apparently stands for Crip Killa, C being the third letter, K the 11th. 666, used by outlaw bikers for the mark of Satan and also associated with the Aryan Brotherhood, and 360, used by folk and people nations, meaning 360 degrees of knowledge.
Connecting this to the bigger picture again, these number codes give them a really compact, often cryptic way to send complex messages or signal affiliations very quickly and discreetly. They add the significant layer of secrecy, allows for rapid, hidden communication within the group. But of course, it's a major hurdle for anyone trying to figure it out without the key, like an internal cipher system.
Right, and it's crucial to remember this whole phenomenon of specialized terminology, codes. It's not just street gangs. Our gang enforcement source actually touches on other, quite different groups that use similar strategies. For example, white supremacist groups. You see terms like KKK, Aryan Brotherhood, acronyms like SRA for super race is white, symbols like the swastika, ideas like a white homeland or belief in a Zionist occupational government. They also reference specific texts like the Turner Diaries or the Ultimate Solution as part of their shared vocabulary. The occult too has its own rich lexicon. Words like pagan, Satanist, warlock, witch, symbols like the pentagram or the upside-down pentagram, which is strictly satanic, representing a goat's head. And then you have motorcycle gangs, the one percenters. They also have very specific codes, HA for Hell's Angels, OFO for Outlaws Forever, and those highly coded wings tattoos. Apparently these signify participation in specific, often really extreme and taboo sexual acts performed by members. It underscores the group's sort of transgressive identity and intense internal bonds.
Yeah, seeing this across such different groups raises a really important question, I think. What does this common thread, this reliance on specialized terminology, tell us about? Maybe a fundamental human need, a need for group identity, for belonging, and for differentiating your group from an outgroup. It really highlights how language becomes this incredibly powerful, versatile tool for social organization. Doesn't matter if it's for crime, ideology, or just expressing a unique subculture, it seems to be a universal impulse, defining us versus them using words and symbols.
Wow, yeah, this deep dive has definitely peeled back some complex layers. A living linguistic landscape for sure. From coded acronyms, symbolic tattoos, to operational slang, those harsh derogatory terms, numerical ciphers. Gang terminology is this incredibly rich, dynamic reflection of identity, power, conflict, belief systems. It's a really powerful lens, actually, into these intricate social structures that often exist just beneath the surface.
Absolutely. We've seen how these terms aren't just for talking. They facilitate internal communication, yes, and operational secrecy. But they also work hard to reinforce loyalty, define rivalries really starkly, and establish clear hierarchies. And the fact that the language is always evolving ensures it stays effective for them. But like we said, it creates this ongoing challenge for anyone trying to decode it without really understanding the context and the purpose behind it.
So wrapping up, what does this all mean for you, the learner? Hopefully you've gained a better appreciation for the intricate and often very strategic ways groups use language, how they use it to define their world, communicate within it. It goes way beyond just knowing a few cool or scary slang words. It's about glimpsing a whole cultural and operational system.
Yeah, and connecting it one last time to the bigger picture, the way groups invent and evolve language to define themselves, to set themselves apart from others, that's not unique to gangs at all. So maybe an interesting question for you to think about is, what other subcultures or specialized communities, maybe historical ones, maybe modern ones right around you, develop these kinds of intricate linguistic systems? And what can studying them tell us about that fundamental human need for belonging, for distinction, maybe even for secrecy?
That's a great question to mull over. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the really fascinating and often quite revealing world of gang terminology. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.